Last spring, my neighbor across the street spent $400 on a name-brand lawn program. 6 bags, 4 applications, a whole season of guessing. His lawn? Still pale, still thin, still ugly. I walked over with a $5 bag of something the fertilizer companies stopped putting on their front labels back in the 1990s, made 1 application, and in 12 days his Bermuda was the deepest green on the block. Here's the thing. This isn't a secret because it doesn't work. It's buried because it works too cheap. You can't build a 4-step subscription program around something that costs a $5 bill. Stay with me, because at the end, I'll tell you the exact spreader setting I use, so you don't burn a single blade applying it. Let me tell you who buried this, because it matters. Back in the 1990s, the consumer fertilizer industry made a pivot, and it was a smart one, for them. They stopped selling you a bag of fertilizer and started selling you a program, 4 applications a year. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, Step 4. A subscription basically, except they didn't call it that. And to make that program work, they leaned hard on patented slow-release coated urea. Nitrogen wrapped in a polymer shell that meters out slowly so you have to keep coming back. That's the business model. Recurring revenue. Now here's the anchor I want you to hold on to. The nitrogen source the pros actually used, the stuff on every golf course in America, was ammonium sulfate 2100. Cheap, effective, sitting right there on the front shelf. And as those 4-step programs rolled out, that bag quietly walked off the consumer shelf and into the feed store back aisle. The public reason they gave? Salt index. Ammonium sulfate has a salt index around 69, where a coated slow release sits down around 10 to 20. So the story became, it's too hot, it'll burn your lawn, leave it to the professionals. Steer the homeowner away. Here's the thing. That high salt index is real. I'm not going to lie to you about it. But it's a process problem, not a reason to abandon the product. And I'll show you exactly how to handle it before we're done. Meanwhile, look at what it cost you. Folks down here in North Texas are spending $300, $400 a season on these branded programs. And half the time the lawn's still pale and thin in July. Our soil down here is heavy alkaline clay, and that matters more than you know. Because the same core nitrogen those programs are built on runs about $5 to $15 a year. That's the trade they made for you. And nobody asked your permission. All right, let's walk through it together. Layer 1, what is the $5 bag? It's ammonium sulfate. 2100. That's the NPK. 21% nitrogen, no phosphorus, no potassium. Just nitrogen and sulfur, and we'll get to that sulfur in a minute because that's the real magic. You're not going to find it on the front lawn care shelf at the big box store, next to the pretty bags with the green lawn on the label. You find it at a feed store, a farm supply place, Tractor Supply, the ag aisle, the back aisle, the section nobody decorates. A 50-pound bag runs you somewhere around $5 to $12 depending on where you are, and a small bag is about $5. This is the workhorse. This is what golf course superintendents fed their fairways with for decades before the branded programs ever existed. The old school pros, the guys who actually grew turf for a living, this was their nitrogen. It still is for a lot of them. They just don't talk about it at the garden center. And that's the first reason you've never seen it. It's not that it stopped working. It's that it stopped being on the front label. Now, layer 2. Why does it work so fast? Why did my neighbor's Bermuda green up in 12 days when his $400 program took all season to do nothing? Here's the math. That coated slow-release urea is engineered, to release slowly. The polymer shell breaks down over weeks. That's the whole point of it. Ammonium sulfate is the opposite. It's fully soluble. The nitrogen is immediately plant available the moment it hits water. There's no shell, no waiting, no metering. The grass takes it up right now. so color shows in days, not weeks. That's mechanism number one, and it's simple. But that's not the whole story, and this is where it gets interesting. Remember I told you about the sulfur. Ammonium sulfate is roughly 24% sulfur, and sulfur is an acidifier. When you've got alkaline soil, and down here in North Texas, in this heavy clay, our soil pH runs high, often up past 7.5. That high pH locks up iron. The iron is already there. It's sitting right in your soil. The grass just can't get to it because the chemistry won't let go of it. The sulfur in that bag lowers the pH right around the root zone and unlocks the iron the lawn already had. And iron is what drives that deep, dark, almost blue-green color. So you're getting two things in one $5 bag. Fast nitrogen for the flush of growth, and sulfur that frees up the iron for the color. That combination is exactly what a coated urea program can't give you, because all it's doing is dribbling out nitrogen. And that's the kind of thing the industry would rather you not connect the dots on. Layer 3. Let's talk about what you can actually expect, with real numbers, because I don't want you guessing. On warm season Bermuda, during active growth, late spring through summer down here, you put this down correctly and you'll see a deep green up in 10 to 14 days. 12 days is what my neighbor saw, and that's right in the pocket. You'll also see thickening, not just color, density. The lawn fills in, the canopy tightens up, because you've fed it the nitrogen it was starving for. Now the rate matters, so write this down. You're aiming for about a ½ pound of actual nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. Since the bag is 21% nitrogen, that works out to roughly 2.5 to 3 pounds of product per 1,000 square feet. That's it. That's the application. Not 6 bags. Not 4 trips to the store. One light application of a couple pounds per 1,000. And here's the cost comparison that ought to make you a little angry. That branded 4-step program, $300 to $400 a season. The ammonium sulfate to feed the same lawn, $5 to $15 a year. Same core nitrogen. A fraction of the color. I've run my own front yard, 1,800 square feet of Bermuda 419, on this approach for years, and it's been the best-looking lawn on the block more times than I can count. Now, if you're up north on cool season grass, Kentucky bluegrass, fescue, perennial rye, the stuff I grew up on in Iowa, this works too. The product's the same. You just time it differently. You feed cool season grass in spring and fall when it's actively growing, not in the dead heat of July when it's trying to survive. Same bag, different calendar. And that's the part the program never tells you, because the program isn't built around your grass. It's built around 4 billing cycles. Now here's layer 4, the part that even a lot of guys who know about ammonium sulfate never quite put together. Most people think it's the nitrogen doing all the heavy lifting on that dramatic green up. It isn't. The nitrogen gives you growth and a general greening, sure. But the deepest, darkest, show-stopping green, the color that makes your neighbors stop at the mailbox and ask what you're doing, that's the iron. And the iron was already in your soil the whole time. You didn't add it. The sulfur just unlocked it. That's the counterintuitive piece. You're not buying color in a bag. You're freeing up color you already paid for years ago, locked away in that alkaline clay. And that is exactly why a coated urea program can never match this, no matter how many steps they sell you. Those programs add nitrogen. They do not touch your soil pH. They do not address iron lockout. They can't. There's no acidifier in them. So you can run the full 4-step program, spend your $400, and still have a lawn that's pale, because the iron's still locked up tight. They're treating a symptom and selling you the subscription. The $5 bag fixes the actual chemistry. That's the difference between feeding the grass and feeding the soil, and it's the whole ball game. Now, before we keep going, I want to tell you about something. Because if what I just showed you is clicking, If you're starting to realize that everything you were told about your lawn was backwards, that the industry sold you a recurring program instead of a cheap one-time fix, then you already understand the thinking behind my book. It's called Larry's 30-Day Weed Kill Protocol, and Chapter 1 is titled, Why Everything You Know About Weeds is Wrong. It makes the exact same case about weed control that I just made about fertilizer, that the conventional chemical dependency approach was never about solving your problem. It was about keeping you on the hook. If you're exhausted by the cycle and you want a permanent fix instead of another tip, that's what this book is. It's $17 at larrysgardenbooks.com. If you're watching on your TV, go ahead and grab your phone and point the camera at the QR code on screen. Take your time finding it. I'll be right here. And if you're on your phone or laptop already, the link's right down in the description. All right. Now let's talk about why they really buried this. Here's the math, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. A 4-step subscription program sells you 4 bags a year, every year, for as long as you own the lawn. That's recurring revenue. That's a customer locked in for decades. Patented slow-release coated urea carries a premium margin on top of that. You're paying for the polymer coating, the patent, the brand on the front of the bag. A $5 feed store sack of ammonium sulfate, bought once or maybe twice a year, generates almost none of that. You can't build a business around a product a man buys once and forgets about. So they didn't. Now, I want to be honest with you, because this audience is too smart for me to pretend there's no other side. Ammonium sulfate has a high salt index, around 69, where a coated slow release sits down around 10 to 20. That's real. Misapply it, dump it on heavy in the heat, and yes, it will burn your lawn. That's the public reason they'll give you for steering homeowners away from it. Too risky for the average guy. But here's the thing. That's a process problem, not a product problem. It's solved with one spreader setting, which I'm about to hand you. They didn't bury this because it was dangerous. They buried it because it was finished. One application and you're done buying for the season. So let me be straight about what that cost you. Every premium bag of coated nitrogen you've bought is mostly the same element doing the same job, deliberately wrapped so it releases slow, so the bag runs out on schedule, so you come back. You paid extra for the nitrogen to work slower. Read that again. You paid more for it to do less, faster. That's not a fertilizer strategy. That's a subscription strategy wearing a fertilizer label. And the lawn that's supposed to prove it all works? Your neighbor's, the one that's still pale and thin after $400? That's the proof it doesn't. All right. Now I owe you that spreader setting, because this is the whole game. Grab a broadcast spreader, not a drop spreader, a broadcast. Set it to roughly half of whatever opening the bag recommends. On a typical Scott-style dial, that's about a 5 or a 6, not the 8 or 9 they print on the side. Then you make 2 light passes in a crosshatch, once north-south, once east-west, instead of one heavy pass. 2 light passes lay the granules down even, with no overlap stripes and no hot spots. Cap your rate at no more than 3 pounds of product per 1,000 square feet. That's your ceiling. Do not exceed it. Then, and this is the part people skip, water it in within 24 hours with about a ½ inch of water. That moves the salt off the blade and down into the root zone where it belongs. And only apply in the early morning when air temps are under 80 degrees and the grass is actively growing. Never on dormant turf. Never on drought-stressed or heat-stressed grass. Trust me on this one. I learned this the hard way back around 1996. I couldn't decide which pre-emergent was best, so I bought 3 and ended up laying 2 of them right on top of each other in my own front yard. Burned a patch the size of a kitchen table. Took half a season to grow back. That patch taught me that with anything carrying salt, it's never the product that burns the lawn. It's the man holding the spreader. Set it light, cross your passes, water it in. You won't burn a single blade. Now here's the bigger picture. Everything I just showed you is really about feeding the soil cheap instead of feeding the bag company. Sulfur, pH, unlocking what your lawn already had. That same thinking, building rich ground from the top down so a thick lawn crowds weeds out for good, is exactly what Chapter 6 of my book walks through. It's called Phase 3, Building Soil on Top, and it's the heart of the whole 30-day system. 88 pages, no fluff, just the protocol, start to finish. A permanent fix, not another tip you'll forget by next weekend. It's $17 at larrysgardenbooks.com. Go ahead and grab your phone right now and aim it at the QR code on the screen, or find the link waiting in the description below. No rush at all. Take a second to pull it up, and I'll be right here. So here's the takeaway. A $5 bag of ammonium sulfate, 2100, puts down soluble nitrogen for fast color and sulfur that frees the iron locked in your soil. And that gives you the deepest green on the block in under 2 weeks, for a fraction of what a program costs. Now you've got the green up the subscription folks built their whole model on keeping you from buying just once. Next time I'll show you the cheap iron source they pull the same trick with. Same story, different aisle. Go check your lawn. You'll see what I mean. I'll see you in the next one.